At a recent meeting of the Climate Parliament, the president of Energy Watch, Hans-Josef Fell, gave compelling reasons for the success of the renewables revolution in Germany.
The renewable energies, mostly wind and solar, are cheap. The cheapest resources in the world when you compare electricity production from coal power or from nuclear power with wind and solar. Wind and solar is the cheapest one. That's a new situation. We haven't had it 10 years ago, but now it is ripe. Though, when the developing countries in Africa, they need more energy, want to have cheap energy, they must go to renewables, otherwise they pay too much. When we go to good technologies to balance the fluctuations of wind and solar, we can create a more stable grid. We have only 10 minutes blackout per year in the German grid. It is more stable than 10 years ago. There we had 20 minutes blackout, and now we have a lot of renewables. This shows the grid operators, the technologies, the engineers are able to balance the grid, to strengthen the grid with the growth of renewables together. And we can see also millions of people now produce energy in Germany. They invest their private money. It is a movement to more democracy. More people can take part on the energy business and not only some monopolists. This movement is very great. The investment in Germany into renewables in the last 10 years were 90% done by new actors who never had a business in the energy sector. Private people with photovoltaic rooftops, farmers with biogas, with photovoltaics, with wind power. Small companies, mostly cooperatives, where the people in a village gather together to invest by a cooperative into the wind power, into the biogas stations. They take the heat from the biogas stations to warm up the houses and the electricity what they need for the lights and the refrigerators and others. So this is a great movement, and the most pillar in a renewable transition is a decentralized with millions of people who do it by themselves. But it is also a good option when we go to balance the fluctuations. It is not so easy to make it 100% in a village alone. The grid can help to balance it with other regions. Therefore, we invest now even in big power lines, high voltage DC from the north to the south. In the south, when we have winter time, we have nearly no solar radiation. Then we can need a lot of wind power from the North Sea. And we can balance it with hydropower from Norway. That's the idea. But it is great, and one example from the city Frankfurt shows it. Frankfurt together, the big industry in Frankfurt, can come 100% renewables together with the region around Frankfurt. 95% comes from the region themselves. Only 5% we need for balancing in the times where we have some problem with solar and wind.
So do you think that if Germany is going forward so well, so fast with renewables, that it will need North Africa?
It would be a good option to come together with North Africa with power lines, yes, because it would help to develop North Africa and others. I supported Desertec initiative. Now what we found is this Desertec initiative influenced the sense of the politicians in North Africa, for example, Morocco. Now we have a huge investment in Morocco in solar and wind, and they do it by themselves. First was the point they could sell it to Europe. It was an idea 5 years ago, but now solar is so cheap that we even can create it cheaper in Europe than to import it from North Africa. But the grids are important in North Africa. Combine it with Morocco, with Algeria, with the other regions and balance it. That's the idea. But we should work together with North Africa more. You have so many degraded and deserted land. We must regreen this land. It is possible with a big water management, with desalination, with solar and wind power to bring water to the farmers. And they could create as food, biofuels. This would be a fight against the poverty. And we need the fight against poverty. Then the people can stay in Africa and do not come as a refugee to Europe. So you see, climate protection with greening the degraded land is also a fight against poverty. And the green land takes out the carbon from the atmosphere. Together with zero emission technology, wind and solar, we can clean the atmosphere and can cool down the earth.
So this is a very wonderful idealistic vision. Is there a danger, as some human rights activists fear, that if the North comes with wonderful ideas and technology, that they will somehow use it to colonize poor people and poor countries again?
I had a discussion over Desertec 5 years ago. With me was a wonderful man from the Tuaregs in Chad. And the people asked them, don't you fear that we would new colonize you with a lot of solar farms and wind farms? We grab your land and others. His answer was, don't you know how great the Sahara Desert is? You can't colonize it with us, with your small wind and with your small solar power, what we need to bring all electricity to the world. It is impossible with decentralized technologies. It is a help together for the developing with the technology. It was a task of the industry nations to make the new technology cheap. Africa couldn't do it. But now we have it cheap, and now when they take part on it, yes, you can buy it from Europe or from China, the technologies. But the most important is you produce your own energy. That's the point. And that is not colonizing, that is more development and more peace and freedom for your countries to do not fight over oil.
So you're sharing your technology?
Yes, sharing technology. Yes, when you have also companies who can produce the modules locally, would be a good option. But that's not so easy. The energy production is the most important, not the technology production.
So what are the roadblocks then? Who is standing in the way of this wonderful future?
We have a great switch in the world economy at the moment. I didn't see this 1 year ago. I believed every time a high oil price would stimulate only the consumers to go to renewable energies because renewables are cheaper. I feared a cheap oil price. Now I could learn and cheap oil price stimulates also the transition to renewables because the financiers see that the investment into coal and oil with a cheap coal and oil price cannot be refinanced. And the investors go out. They switch the investment into renewables. And this goes much faster than when the consumers alone switch. So therefore, the fossil industry is in a double pitfall. Rising oil price, they lose the consumers. Low oil price at the moment, they lose the financiers. Both is a threat for them. They cannot overlive, but they must see it. It is dangerous for the national economies when they do not see this movement. And then they go really fast to new economic crisis, what we had in Lehman crisis in 2007. That stands before. So therefore we must switch our economy, our parliamentarians making good laws to support this switch, and then we can go to 100% renewables without an economic crash.
What do you say to when you're confronted with people who have huge vested interests in keeping fossil fuels going?
Look to Germany, we had the discussion also. 20 years ago, in 1990, we had 800,000 employers in coal industry, in coal mining industry. Today
Employers or employees?
Employees, yeah, workers in the mining industry. Today we have 20,000. We lost 780,000. And Germany is a good economy with a lot of income for the people. So we can make a positive impact when we switch to renewables, because renewables bring more employees than coal industry. So it helps the economy, it helps the poorest, it makes more sense to bring a lot of employees instead of a few employees in the coal mining areas. But it is necessary that the governments make plans in the regions where the coal mining area is. This should be the regions where the new technology should be implemented, that the people can switch from one working place to the new one.
So it really needs a far-sighted government who wants to do this, who is motivated to do this. But, for example, in Britain, where I live, the government seems to be going backwards. It's supporting fracking, for example, very strongly. What do you say to governments like this?
We have partly in the German government the same situation. They also want to support fracking, some support of some lignite and others. I see in Great Britain, in Poland and others, these are the last fights for the old traditional companies. And it is a threat for the companies. They lost a lot of employees and others. And astonishing is the German governments want to support the coal industry. But the coal industry utilities, E.ON, RWE, made themselves, because of economic issues, the switch to renewables. They decided now the new business will be renewables and not the old one.
So
they do it.
They know the writing is on the wall.
They know it already. Mm-hmm. And we have other parts in the world. Enel in Italy makes the same as a great utility. Not the mining industry. The mining industry is opposition to renewables. But the utilities now follow more and more. In USA, we have a lot of utilities who invest now in wind and in solar. They see it is the biggest business for them. And when they do not make it, others will do it. Look to India in the coal mining areas. There are huge areas with destroyed land because of the coal mining. All the small and medium farmers lost their jobs in these areas. Coal mining jobs is the same with destroying the jobs in the agriculture areas. So it is not a good idea to go to the coal mining jobs, because you lose more jobs than you create new ones.
And so is there, what makes governments do this? I mean, is it as straightforward as corruption?
Yes. The business with nuclear, with coal, gas and mineral oil is the biggest business in the world. They have big pockets and they can take some of the money out of the pocket and give it to the politicians, and we go on with the old business. I help you with your election campaigns and others. This is all over the world the same. We had a big corruption scandal with our company Siemens in energy and telecom sector. They corrupted governments worldwide with new coal power stations and others. It is all over the world the same, not only in some undeveloped countries, all over the world. And this is a big problem. We can overcome it when we influence the medias, the people and the politicians with education over the new situation in the world. When they learn and see that now renewables are cheaper than the old ones, then they can accept the transition. And therefore education is very important.